Ngayon, may ilan to? Siyam na subjects tuturuan ko. Hindi mo na ako nagtuturo eh. No? Nakapagod eh. No? Okay. Now, this is your first course in auditing. And ano nga ba talaga ang auditing? Now, syempre, yung mga third parties in doubt kung pagkatiwalaan ba yung mga accountants ng business entity. There must be that somebody independent na who can do examination para yung output noong accounting noong entity ay reliable, ano? Mapapagkatiwalaan. Talagang nag-observe ng reporting, observing the fair presentation and other standards of reporting. At yan ang role ng auditor. No? So, dapat ang auditor ay kanya-kanyang auditing procedures. At sa auditing, meron yang auditing standard just like accounting standard. International auditing standard na dapat sundan. So, yun ang role ng accounting ng auditor, ano? And the auditor should be able to answer any questions from the client about taxation, no? And the latest regulations na in-issue ng mga government agencies like PESA, Philippine Economic Zone Authority, ng BOI, Board of Investments, ng BIR, SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. So, the auditor should be updated with so much knowledge, no? So much knowledge. The auditor plays on also the role of consultant, no? Consultant. Now, in this first chapter of auditing, you will be knowing so much, ano? What should be the proper introductory, knowing the course auditing. And kung makapal ang libro ng accounting, kung nakita nyo naman, makapal din ang libro ng auditing, ano? There's so much to be learned in auditing. There's so much to be considered in doing the work, being an auditor. Now, for so many years, more than a decade already, I started working as an auditor. Kailan ba? 1994. And hanggang ngayon, no? So, auditing. So, gano'n ang role ng isang auditor, no? So, you will be learning what are those auditing procedures, kung paano isasagawa. And also, documentation na nagkaroon ng auditing examination. And that is acceptable before legal court. Okay? Legal court as evidence na nagkaroon ng examination ang records, financial records ng isang business entity. So, we play the role of, we are also observing the things that should be legal, no? Should be legal. No? what is legally acceptable. For today, welcome learning the auditing. Welcome to auditing, everybody. We have reporters today. Ilan ba? Dalawa ba? Lawrence, dalawa ba reporter today? Lawrence?
Tatlo po ata, sir.
Tatlo? Okay. So let's start. Para tayong ano, no? Knowing mass in auditing, let's join the tour trip, okay, and see what are there inside auditing. Okay, the first speaker, you may start.
Good afternoon.
Oh, here it is.
Kita po ba? Good afternoon po. I am the first reporter for Auditing and Assurance Principle. So, for the overview of auditing, philosophy of an audit, business institutions and individuals must maintain records of their financial condition and progress. These records are necessary to evaluate and guide business operations, to determine financial status, to meet legal requirements, and to serve as a basis for credit. Creditors and investors present and prospective may wish to study the financial statements of many enterprises to credit extension and investment purposes. Government agencies will need financial reports to help them carry out duties imposed upon them by law. Internal management needs financial report for planning, directing, and controlling business operations. So, sinasabi po dito na mahalaga ang mapanatili ang records ng financial condition and progress ng isang business dahil maaari itong magamit sa pagsusulit at pagpapatakbo ng negosyo para malaman ang kanilang financial status. At ito rin ay maaaring maging basis para sa mga creditors. Mahalaga rin po itong mga records nito dahil pwede itong hingin ng mga creditor at investors at pag-aralan ang financial statement ng business para sa credit extension at investment purposes. Ang mga records na ito ay kailangan ng mga internal management para sa pagpaplano at pagpapatakbo ng negosyo. The parties therefore needs reliable and credible financial information. The process employed to establish the reliability or unreliability of the financial statements and supporting records is referred to as an audit examination. Auditing of financial records has become an important factor in the dissemination of financial information, and the services of the independent certified public accountant are considered indispensable. Increasingly, this written report is required to add credibility to the financial statement. Sa makatuwid, kinakailangan ng isang auditor dahil sila ay isa sa pinagkakatiwalaan pagdating sa financial information ng business. Ginagawa ang audit examination upang matukoy kung ang financial statement ba ng isang business ay fairly presented or hindi biased. Auditing is a form of attestation. Attestation in general sense refer to an expert's communication about the reliability of someone else's assertion. Attestation in a narrower sense is a written communication that expresses a conclusion about the reliability of written assertion that is the responsibility of another party. So, sinasabi naman po dito na ang auditors ay siyang nagpapatunay ng assertion or paninindigan ng isang party. Siyempre po, di ba, ang gawain ng isang auditor ay ang i-check ang financial statement ng isang business. At isa sa role nila ay mapatunayan kung ang pinasang financial statement ba ay fairly presented. An independent auditor's opinion contained in the audit report provides both internal and external users with input to making logical and informed decisions about financial position. managerial performance, and economic vulnerability. Without auditors, decisions such as these are more likely to be made from biased financial information resulting from business entity undisclosed errors and irregularities or legal acts. Yun nga po, ang auditor's opinion po ay importante in both internal and external users dahil nakakatulong ito sa when it comes to their decision making. At kung wala naman po auditor, yun nga, maaaring hindi ma-verify ang financial statement dahil may tendency na magkaroon ng error, irregularities na maaaring maka-apekto sa kumpanya. Auditing has been defined in different ways by different sources. The definition given by the American Accounting Association provides an effective means of introducing and initially exploring topic. Auditing is a systematic process which a competent independent person objectively obtains and evaluates evidence regarding assertion about economic actions and events to ascertain the degree of correspondence between those assertions and established criteria and communicating the results of interested users. This definition includes several keywords and phrases briefly discussed in this section. Systematic process. This implies structured, logical, and organized series of steps and procedures. Auditing consists of a series of sequential steps that include information testing, system, and testing of transaction and balances. Sa systematic process po, sinasabi na ang pag-audit daw po ay mayroong systematic process na kung saan step by step itong ginagawa na kailangang suriin ng maayos upang ma-attain yung objective. Competent independent person. The auditor must be qualified to understand the criteria used and competence to know how and what evidence to accumulate to reach the proper conclusion. The auditor must also have an independent mental attitude which involves impartial and objective thinking. Dito naman po, sinasabi ng auditor ay dapat alam at naunawaan yung criteria ginagamit at may kakayahan upang malaman kung paano at kung ano yung mga evidences na kailangan bago magbigay ng opinion or conclusion. Tapos, dapat din po nga na hindi maging bias ang isang auditor. Objectively obtains and evaluate evidence. This means examining the basis for the assertion, representation, and judiciously evaluating the result without bias or prejudice, either for or against the individual or entity making the representation. Yun nga po, kaparahas lang po yung sinabi ko, dapat po hindi maging bias yung isang auditor po. Dapat mag-base siya dun sa evidence na makakalap niya. Assertion about economic action and events. These are the representation made by the individual or entity. They comprise the subject matter of auditing. Assertions include the information contained in financial statements, internal operating reports, and tax returns. In the audit of financial statements, assertions are the representation of management as to the fairness of the financial statements. Dito po, yung tinatawag po na representation, yun po yung mga financial statements, mga internal operating reports, and tax returns. Degree of correspondence, this refers to the closeness with which the assertion can be identified with established criteria. The expression of correspondence may be qualified, such as the amount of shortage in a petty cash fund, or it may be qualitative, such as the fairness or reasonableness of financial statements. Established criteria, these are the standards against which the assertion or representation are judged. Criteria may be specifically prescribed by a legislative body, budget, and the other measures of performance set by management or financial reporting standards established by the Financial Reporting Standards Council or FRSC and other authoritative bodies. Ang mga criteria pong sinusunod ng isang auditor ay maaaring nagmula sa legislative budgets and other measurements of performance set by management or financial reporting standards. Communicating the result. This is often referred to as attestation, the final stage in the audit process. In the audit report, the communication of the findings of users by attesting the degree of correspondence with established criteria, the investors enhances or weakens the credibility of the representation or claims that have been made by other party. The communication of findings is achieved through a written report. Interested users, these are individuals who use rely on the auditor's findings. In a business environment, this includes stockholders, management, creditor, governmental agencies, and the public. Pagkatapos daw po na suriin ng isang auditor ang isang financial report or financial statement or yung representation na sinasabi ay kailangan daw po ito ay maibahagi sa interested users. The International Federation of Accountants or IFAC Education Committee defines auditing as follows. Auditing is a structured process that involves the application of analytical skills, professional judgment, and professional skepticism. Sinabi po dito na ang auditing daw ay isang proseso na ginagamitan ng analytical skills, professional judgment, and professional skepticism. Is usually performed by a team of professional directed with managerial skills. Yun nga po, professionals daw po ang gumagawa nito. Uses appropriate forms of technology and adheres to a methodology. Yun, ginagamitan daw po ito ng technology at parang process. Complies with all relevant technical standards such as International Standards on Auditing or IAS, International Standards on Quality Control or ISQC, International Financial Reporting Standards or IFRS, International Public Sector Accounting Standards or IPSAS, and any applicable international or national or local equivalents as appropriate. Ito daw po, dito daw po yung parang sila daw po yung nagse-set ng criteria or sa kanila sinusunod yung criteria nila sa pag-audit. And lastly po, complies with required standard of professional ethics. Ayan, ang pag-audit po ay proseso ng kailangan sumunod sa pamantayan ng professional ethics. Yun lang.
Okay. So, what are some keywords that we should remember after listening to the report? Now, maraming mga government agencies or private firms na hindi basta tinatanggap yung financial statements ng isang borrower or supplier kung hindi magsasubmit sa kanila ng audited financial statements. So, the accounting people can produce financial statements kahit pa in observance of international standards of financial reporting. And yet, kailangan audited. Kailangan audited. And then, now one of the major things na dapat i-audit ay yung mga assertions ng iyong client na nag-exist yung account, na yung account na yun ay owned by the client, na properly measured and properly evaluated yung account na yon, and the account balance properly presented, and kung ano man yung mga disclosures, ay disclosure naman lahat ang mga bagay-bagay na dapat i-disclose. Yun ang assertion ng client. Now, the auditor will gather evidence to support na tama yung assertion o misstated, mali yung assertion. Yun ang role ng auditor. No? Now, the model auditor should possess so many qualities fitted sa pagiging auditor. First, in performing the examination, no? Mga keywords na to remember, kung siya man ay bias siya for being independent, ano? Bias siya for being always independent in thinking. Yun ang kanyang bias. Pero aside from being independent, ay dapat siya without bias, no? Bias siya for being independent. Yun ang kanyang bias, ano? And then, so the related words to describe yung mga qualities na dapat i-possess ng auditor, especially during his performance of auditing work, ay impartial siya, no? Pati unbiased. Objective ang kanyang thinking, hindi subjective. And then, what else? And then, mention ng reporter na there are so many standards na dapat yung client nagko-comply. So many standards. Hindi lamang standards of financial reporting. Hindi lang yun. Mayroon ding mga compliance sa mga existing rules and regulations ng government agencies. Okay. Meron tayong international standard on quality control. Okay. So, kapag merong existing agreement contract between the auditor or auditing firm and client, there is that engagement between the auditing firm or auditors at one side and the other side, the client. There is that existing engagement for the auditor to perform independent examination. Okay. What else? Okay, so those are the things that should be emphasized after listening to the introductory or introduction report. Now we go to the next reporter to continue listening on auditing. The next reporter, please.
Afternoon po.
Sarsuela. Asan kayo ngayon, Sarsuela?
Dito po sa Tabi Center po.
Okay.
Meron na po ba? Sir, wait lang po. Ayaw pong mag-share screen. Hello po, good afternoon. I am Mary Jane Sarsuela po. And I will be reporting about the objectives of the Philippine Standards of Auditing, PSA 120, Framework of Philippine Standard on Auditing, states the objective of an audit financial statements is to enable the auditor to express an opinion. Wala, nag-feedback. Sir, wait lang po. Yes, ko lang po. Nag-echo lang po.
Malaki lang yung ano, arena. Baka matuluan yung laptop at gamit.
Hello po. Okay na po.
Okay, nakikita namin.
Ito po. Objective of auditing. Philippine Standards of Auditing PSA 120, Framework of Philippine Standard on Auditing states that the objective of an audit of financial statements is to enable the auditor to express an opinion whether the financial statements are prepared in all material respects in accordance with an identified financial reporting framework. The phrase used to express the auditor's opinion is present fairly in all material respects. So here, when we say material respects, there is no difference with respect to compliance to the applicable rules or standards. Meaning to say, it is accordance with the standard of or guidelines. A similar objective applies to the audit of financial or other information prepared in accordance with appropriate criteria. The auditor's opinion helps establish the credibility of financial statements, however, should not assume that the auditor's opinion is an assurance as to the future viability of the entity, nor an opinion as to the efficiency or effectiveness with which management has conducted the affairs of the entity. So that in general, ang objective po ng auditing is to form an independent opinion of the financial statement of the audited entity. So when we say opinions, it includes whether the financial statements that is shown true and fair view and have been properly prepared in accordance with accounting standards. Meaning to say, the opinion are accurate and complete. But why independent auditing is necessary? Auditing services are used extensively by business, government, and other profit organization. Every profession, we need to have a wide public acceptance, and also same as independent auditing. Over the years, society has perceived a need for audits publicly held companies, which has developed the result of separation of the owners and management. There is also what we call the information risk. This is the reason why we need independent auditing. Because when society becomes more complex, there is an increased likelihood that unreliable information will be provided to the users. And this is what we call the information risk. Meaning to say, merong mga hindi reliable na information na naiipasa ng mga providers sa mga users. So ano ba yung mga factors that contribute to information risk? We have three. First is the remoteness of information users from information providers. And the second one is the potential bias and motives of information provider. Apat po. And then voluminous data. And the last one is the complex exchange transaction. Now let's go to the remoteness of information user from information providers. So ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng remoteness? When we say remoteness, there is a distant or not connected yung user at yung information providers. Decision makers almost always do not get first-hand knowledge about the business enterprise with which they do business for the reason that in many cases, one is owners are divorced from the management. This happens when the owners have entrusted the entity to the management. Kumbaga, hindi po siya kasali sa nagmamanage nung sarili niyang business. And then the second one, directors are not involved in day-to-day operation or decision. Same as also as number one, dito yung mga directors, hindi rin sila parating nandun sa operation, hindi rin sila palaging kasama sa paggawa ng mga decisions. And then, business may be dispersed among numerous geographical location and complex corporate structure. This happen when, for example, a businessman or a businesswoman have many business in different parts of the Philippines. And then the second one is the potential bias in motives of information providers. Conflict may be assumed to exist between manager and owners regarding the financial management. Financial management usually desire to present the results of its stewardship in the most favorable light. Information may be biased, not favored to the provider. So dito po, nagkakaroon po ng potential bias and motives ang mga information provider. For example, yung manager, gusto niyang, syempre, as manager, gusto niyang i-present yung financial statement ng better than kung ano talaga yung nangyayari. So dito, hindi nagiging patas yung binibigay niyang mga information. And then the third one is what we call the voluminous data. New and changing business relationship may lead to innovative accounting and reporting problems. Most of the time, there have been millions of exchange transactions that are processed daily via manual or even computerized system. This increases, therefore, the likelihood that improperly recorded information were included or buried in the records. When we say voluminous data, sobrang dami na nung mga data na kailangang i-process and dun po nagkakaroon ng mga problema. Minsan merong hindi nare-record or minsan naman nadodoble ng record. And then the last one, for the factors of information risk is the complex exchange transaction. Some transactions are complex, hence more difficult to record properly. So, parang same lang po dito. Dito naman po, yung parang complex na po yung mga transaction at hindi na siya ganun kadaling i-record. But fortunately, we have ways to reduce the information risk. First is allow users to verify information. Here, the user may go to the business establishment to examine records and obtain information about the reliability of the statement. But this is considered impractical because of the cost. And also, it has disadvantages such as inconvenience to the person providing the information. But the advantages of allowing users to verify information, the user can obtain what information he is needing. And user can also be more confident of the qualification and activities of the person getting the information. We have what we call the due to diligence audit. When we say due to diligence audit, this refers to when a purchases use a special audit team to independently verify and evaluate key information of the prospective business. Then the second one is user shares information with management. It is important to emphasize the fact that management has the primary responsibility of providing reliable information to users. The advantage of this second way of reducing information risk is that there is no cost incurred. And then the third one is to have the financial statement audited. To obtain reliable information, the user can have an independent audit performed. The audited information is then used in the decision-making process on the assumption that is reasonably complete, accurate, and unbiased. Here, multiple user can obtain information. But using the financial statement audited, the disadvantage is that it may not provide what is the user actually need. And of course, the cost is higher. Now, let's proceed to the Philippine Standards on Auditing, or what we call the PSA. Many segments of society turn to practicing accountants for assistance in assessing the credibility of information used for decision. The stature of any profession is largely dependent upon the quality of the daily work performed by its member. A uniformly high quality of work can be achieved only if the members of the profession and adhere to a specific standard of professional performance. The preface to the Philippine Standards on Quality Control, Auditing, Review, Other Assurance, and Related Services, December 2006, paragraph 8 states that pronouncement on primarily accepted auditing standards, interpretation, and opinion issued by the AASC applied whenever an independent examination of financial statements of any entity, whether profit-oriented or not, and irrespective of size or legal form when such examination of financial statements of an entity, whether profit-oriented or not, irrespective of the size or legal form when such examination is conducted for the purpose of expressing an opinion thereon. They may also have application as appropriate to other related activities of auditors. When we say Philippine standards on auditing, they are the one who deals with auditors' responsibility to form an opinion of the financial statements. They establish the independent auditor's overall responsibility when conducting an audit of financial statements. And then the last one is the AASC standards. These contain basic principles and essential procedures identified in bold type lettering together with related guidance in the form of explanatory and other material including appendices. The basic principles and essential procedures are to be understood and applied in the context of the explanatory and other materials that provide guidance for their application. The AASC standards continuation, I think ay po ay nasa next reporter po.
Okay.
It would be all po. Thank you po.
So, audited financial statement is expected. Sinabi dito na the entity is profit-oriented or not. Okay? Irrespective of size or legal form of the entity. When such examination is conducted for the purpose of expressing an opinion of the auditor. So, various, various or variety ang clients, ano, no? And na-mention dito about the opinion of the auditor, no? Now, in auditing, may kanyang definition ang opinion ng auditor na very strict, ano? Very strict. Hindi tulad ng the word opinion na nakikita natin sa English dictionary. Sa auditing, di maraming mga audit procedures na dapat i-perform ang auditor. And siyempre, iba't iba ang outcome no, no? And whatever is the outcome, ang result nun is an auditor opinion. Now, what I mean is that sa auditing, before you can say that nagkaroon nga ng opinion, it must be achieved by the auditor performing the procedures. And the opinion ay iba't iba. Yan yung tinatawag na unqualified opinion, meron yung qualified opinion, meron yung disclaimer of opinion, meron yung adverse opinion, na although opinion siya, but still, the auditor must perform audit procedures para magkaroon ng resultant masasabing opinion. No? Now, and also a very nice portion here, how the information risk may be reduced. That's why there are so many relying on the results of the examination of the auditor, knowing that in business, maraming sources ng risk, ano? Kahit information risk, meron. Okay, so we go to the next reporter. Okay, next reporter, please. Lawrence, sino next reporter?
Sir, si Tenorio po.
Tenorio, where are you? Andiyan ka ba? Tenorio, diyan.
Ano po, sir?
Okay, Tenorio, you may start.
Sir, kita po.
Okay, sige.
General types of audit. A. Independent financial statements audit. Nature. Independent audit consists of methodical review and objective examinations of financial statements prepared by an enterprise or auditee to determine if such statements have been prepared in conformity with financial reporting practices that are appropriate for the auditee. The financial statements are the product and property of the auditee, and the independent auditor merely audits and expresses an opinion on them. The expression of the opinion by the independent auditor is known as the attest function. The audit attestation is communicated to the officials of the auditee as well as to other external recipients like government, financial institutions, investors, and general public. It is in the form of a written audit report which accompanies the financial statement. We should, dapat po i-note natin na without a report from the independent auditor, a company's financial statement would have little meaning of reliability. Meaning po ay parang bawas po yung reliability ng isang financial information ng isang firm kapag hindi po siya na-assess ng independent auditor po. Overall objectives of the auditor. PSA 200. Overall objectives of the independent auditor and the conduct of an audit in accordance with Philippine standards on auditing establishes the independent auditor's overall responsibilities when conducting an audit of financial statements in accordance with PSAs. Specifically, it sets out the overall objectives of the independent auditor and explains the nature and scope of an audit design to enable the independent auditor to meet those objectives. In conducting an audit of financial statements, the overall objectives of the auditor are, so ito pong dalawang ito is yung objectives po ng pagkakandak ng audit sa financial statements. To obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, thereby enabling the auditor to express an opinion on whether the financial statements are prepared in all material respects in accordance with an applicable financial reporting framework. And second, to report on the financial statements and communicate as required by the PSAs in accordance with the auditor's findings. Next is scope of independent audit. The term scope of an audit refers to the audit procedures deemed necessary in the circumstances to achieve the objective of the audit. Since the primary objective of an independent audit is to express an opinion on the company's financial statements, the auditor will first conduct a critical and systematic examination on the statements of the related documents, records, procedures, and controls. Then after that, by inquiry, observation, confirmation, and inspection, the auditor can now test the existence and validity of assets, liabilities, overall reasonableness of other account balances in the financial statements. Then next, when sufficient and competent audit evidences have been gathered, the auditor can then formulate his opinion on the fairness with which the financial statements have been prepared. And lastly, he then prepares the audit report containing the scope of his examination and opinion he has expressed on the financial statements. Advantages and practical benefit of independent audit. The first advantages and practical benefit that I will discuss is to the auditee or client. Number one, independent audit makes the financial statement more credible and reliable. Second, management is the beneficiary of constructive suggestion in improving business operations. Third, commission of fraud by the management and employee is minimized. Four, audited financial statements provide a more credible basis for the preparations of tax returns. And five, Better and sound management decisions may be made if financial records and reports are accurately maintained and provided. For the creditors, prospective investors, and employees, the, the advantages and practical benefits are: first, financial institutions have more credible basis in deciding whether financial assistance will be extended to the auditee. Second, suppliers and other creditors will have a reliable basis in making decisions related to extension of audit. Number three, potential and current investors will have more credible basis in evaluating managerial efficiency. Four, employees will have a better and credible basis in requesting for fringe benefits and wage adjustments. And five, in the event of sale, purchase, or merger of a business, both the buyer and the seller will have more confident basis for aiming at a decision as to the terms and conditions of the arrangement. And for the government agencies and legal community, ang isa sa kanilang practical advantages ay BIR has more assurance concerning accuracy and dependability of tax return if they have been based on audited financial statements. Second, government institutions like GSIS, SSS, BBP will have better basis in extending financial assistance to business enterprise. And lastly, audited statements provide the legal community an independent basis for administering estates and trusts, setting action in bankruptcy and insolvency, etc.
Okay, so that's the end of the report. So what strikes me more from your report is that the advantages and practical benefits of independent audit, knowing that paying for the services uh, of coming out with independent audit is very expensive, ano? But does it is it worth, no? In return, the advantages and practical benefits out of spending so big money for independent audit of your business? But it is required by some many government agencies and other business entities like BIR, no? Na naghihintay yan ng tax, no? Hindi yan papayag ng yung tax computation is based on unaudited, especially if the entity is very big and paying huge amount of taxes. So, para bang hinahanapan nila ng quality yung product ng accounting, ano? Ano yung quality niyon? Yan ba merong audit opinion, auditor's opinion, audited ba yan? So, in finance, yun ang mark of quality. Yan ba yung audited? So, that is the culture in our present business and business very long time ago na kailangan ang audit. I mean, the audit of financial statements, no? Kasi there are many types of audit, and one is the independent financial statement audit, no? Iba yung papel ng internal auditor, no? Iba ang papel ng government auditor, no? So we are speaking of auditor of the financial statements. Iba yung internal auditor, no? Iba yung government auditor. Okay? Okay, so now, and also the benefit to the creditors, prospective investors, and employees. Mapagkatiwalaan ba yung mapagkatiwalaan ba yung product ng accounting na unless you prove to us na they are not biased, ano? Now, in practice, no, marami ako na-encounter na clients na window dress. Saan ba yung window dress? Sa ano yun? Intermediate Accounting 1, ano? Nagaganda yung financial statements kahit hindi totoo. Cheating, no? Window dressing. Kasi paglaki ng revenue, paglaki ng bonus ng mga employees up to the management level, ano? Maraming ganyan, ano? Maraming ganyan. Kung tawagin namin sa audit, bogus revenue. Hindi totoo. And the auditors ay maraming mga procedures na ginagawa para matrap, ma-detect kung meron ang ganon, ano? Meron silang tinatawag ng mga sales cut-off, purchases cut-off, mga techniques in auditing na you will be learning as you go along in audit, no? And also, gusto ng mga nagwi-window dress, nag-cheat, na business firm to attract more investors, big amount of money coming in. Naku, baka matulad yan sa United States, ano? Maraming cases na yung auditors who are supposed to be independent people connive with the auditee, no? Na bribe. Anong kinalabsan? Ay di naghabla ang affected parties, third parties o investors. Ano na naging resulta? Aba, di pati yung mga certified public accountant kulong for so many years. Malpractice. This is just to emphasize na yung gravity ng responsibility ng accountant, especially the certified public. You are entrusted with public trust, no? So, yun. May mga standards at may mga qualities na dapat meron ang isang auditor para maging auditor siya, no? Number one is independence of mind. Second is integrity. Ano ba Tagalog ang integrity? Kalinisan, ano? Kalinisan. No bias. Hindi tumatanggap ng lagay. So, we are entering the doors of auditing, and I see that at this point, you are picking up so many knowledge about auditing, and I hope that you encounter more knowledge kapag medyo kapal itong libro, no? Kung yung sabihin makapal ang libro, wala naman laman, ano? Maraming laman yan. Kaya may oras pa tayong laan para to go over all these things that the auditor knows or students of auditing should know. And next reporter pa, Lawrence. Wala na, no? Lawrence?
Wala na po, sir.
So again, welcome to auditing. And there's so much to learn in auditing.
There's so much
Now, I see you can now compare what is auditing and what is accounting, no? Okay, there is, we prepare for the last number of our program, and that is the screenshot attendance portion. Open your camera.
Ay, magbukas ng camera ko.
Yan. Oh, smile time. Okay. Ito pala nagtatapos ang ating meeting, ano? Nag-iwan tayo ng smiles para sa
Dayo, gumana ng...
yesterday. Lawrence, our choice photographer. Just say 1, 2, 3.
Yun na po. 1, 2, 3. Wait lang pala. Wait lang po. Yun. 1, 2, 3, smile.
Okay.
Mali pala, wait lang po. Game. Hindi mag-open cam si Dayan. Game na po. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay na po.
Okay. Okay, nasan yung ating new classmate? Nandiyan ba? Ba't nawala? Si Sarsuela. Are you still there, Sarsuela? Nawala na. Okay, so bukas ulit, no?